Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a show called Get to Know Them, and I am your host, Monica Graves. Every week, I have guests on here with beautiful stories that they share in hopes to inspire you. And our guest today is extra special. So, before I introduce her, though, I have a few sponsors that I need to talk about. So, let's get to those first. First of all, every week I am dressed in this wonderful clothing by a beautiful designer in Toronto named Brenda Badome. So you can go to Brenda's website at brendabadome.com and check out her beautiful spring collection. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them, and she will give you 20% off your order. Our second sponsor is located in sunny downtown Oakville. She has a little shop off the main drag. Off of Lakeshore, and it is called Flourish and Bask. Her name is Chantel Ingram. Her website is flourishandbask.ca, and she has an amazing assortment of alcohol-free cocktails, as well as beautiful stemware and all kinds of other pretty things. So make sure you go in there and check her out, or you can go to her website. You can also use the coupon code Get to Know Them, and you will receive 10% off your order. Our third sponsor is located just a little further east, and that is scooters.ca. Scooters is an amazing roller rink that was built in the 70s. It's one of the only original rinks in Canada, I believe. Um, and they're close by to all of you who are local. You can go there on a Thursday night. I am always there on Thursdays for an adult skate, and also you can take a lesson on Thursdays. The lessons start at 7 p.m. and I recommend them. If it's been a while since you've been on roller skates, you will appreciate the lesson and you'll be right back to where you were when you were 14, 15. I promise you. And last but not least, I am also a show sponsor. I am a jewelry designer located in Burlington, Ontario, and my company is called Glam Jewels, GLAMJULZ.com, and we create all kinds of beautiful custom pieces for women of all walks of life. And also, we do a big piece of our business is fundraising. So we do our own campaign called the Three Little Wishes, where we help a family suffering from the financial burdens of cancer. And then we also help other people who are interested in starting their own fundraisers for causes that they believe in. So be sure to reach out to me. I would love to help you with any fundraising ideas that you have, and we can see if Glam Jewels is a good fit for you. So, are you guys ready to hear about our guest today? Today, you are going to meet Julie Rock, and I am just pulling up her bio. Julie has 12 years of professional experience as a portrait and branding photographer, but her love and passion for the art far predates her founding Julie Rock Photography in 2012. A highly regarded small business owner and the co-founder of the studio in downtown Milton that was open from 2018 to 2023. Julie's recognized ability to capture people's authentic selves has branched out, capturing her very personal journey with cancer. At speaking engagements, both behind and in front of the camera, as well as being interviewed on SiriusXM Canada, where she talks with Jeff Samet. Inspirational, real, and selfless with her story, Julie's passion for authenticity is equally expressed in her words as it is in her photography. Julie resides in Milton with her husband Tyler and 5 children. When not behind the camera or in front of a microphone, you can find Julie on the soccer field or at her favorite local gym. Many of you who are watching know Julie Rock as you were kind enough to support the Glam Jewels Three Little Wishes Fund back in 2022 when Julie was diagnosed for the second time. I'm so glad to have her on today. Here she comes. Oh, Julie, it's so great to have you.
Thank
That's
you.
it's awesome. You are like a podcast professional. You got the mic, the headphones, you have a beautiful space where you're coming from. It's great. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're embracing this because we need your voice in the world.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Julie, I have to ask you, I don't I think I maybe sent you a little note on it, but the first question I ask all of my guests, and I love the element of surprise, there is no wrong answer, is what did little Julie want to be when she grew up?
Little Julie wanted to be a teacher when she grew up.
Oh,
And then in high school, I wanted to become an interior designer. I just had a niche for it, I guess. And life threw me a surprise, AKA my
uh-huh.
oldest son. And so I didn't go to school for interior design, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I still was able to do something creative.
Oh, good for you. So how old is your son now?
He will
Your
be 20,
oldest.
he'll be 27 in a couple of weeks.
Wow. And you've got a big family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us about your other kiddos. What ages are you?
Okay. Yep.
Have
So
you got those?
I just don't ask me the times they were born and their birth weights because I'm not going to remember
Yeah.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have Brayden, who will be 27, and then Madison will be 24, also in a couple of weeks ish. I'm like, where are we in the month?
Yeah.
And then I have 14-year-old Ashton and 12-year-old Cohen and 9-year-old Leah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I loved seeing your Instagram posts over Mother's Day. You guys were having a lot of fun. Could
Thank
see.
you. It was
Yeah.
almost perfect. I mean, the two older ones, you know how it is when you are adults and you have to do the adult things like working. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see them soon, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's great. So you had your oldest son, and was that around the time that you decided to pick up a camera and try photography, or where did this how did the photography thing even start?
Well, so actually, I've always had a camera in my hand since I was a kid. I guess I never thought I could make a living out of it. And so when he was born and was about 1.5, I ended up starting up a home daycare. So I did home daycare for, I don't know, 20 something years. And
Wow.
then when we had our youngest son, who I thought was going to be the last, I was like, okay, let's go do a baby shoot. And I took him and I came home and said to my husband, like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. And it just went from there. I just shadowed other photographers and self taught myself, did some workshops while still working full time with the daycare and raising at that time 4 kids. Yeah.
Maze. Oh my God, girl.
Yeah.
Next time I don't feel like walking my dog, I will think of you. Yeah, that's incredible. So you had this passion, and good for you for, pursuing that at such a hectic time in your life.
Yeah, but it's just something
Yeah.
that I I'm passionate about. And
Mhm.
even now, even though things have changed, I can't put my camera down. So I'll still do some things for fun, and you
Mhm.
just can't turn off that creativity, right? Like,
No, no, that's right. Exactly. And it comes, as you know, once you start with one thing that's creative, all these other things spark from it. It's like, oh, I could do that. I could do that too. Maybe I'll try this. Yeah. Wow. So, Julie, at what point did you feel that, it's time to open my own studio? Like what was it that had changed where you thought, okay, that now I need to do this? And were you doing the daycare at the same time, or how did that kind of happen?
okay, so we lived in Durham region, so we're actually from Oshawa Whitby area, and so that's where I was
Okay.
doing home daycare, and then started the photography, and then we moved here to Milton. Oh gosh, in 2013, and we didn't know anybody. And we decided to have one more baby.
Aw.
So I did daycare part-time because, still a way to supplement and bring in income, but being home with the kids, that's always been really important to me, being
Yeah.
with my kids and present. And that's just something that I always wanted to do when I became a mom.
Why why was that so important to you? Is that how you were raised or the
No,
opposite?
the opposite.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom and stepdad weren't really around, weren't really all that present. So I knew that when I had a family, I wanted to be present. It was just really important to be involved in their lives
Mhm.
and having small businesses. I always say, like, I can work my businesses around my family, not my family around my business.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we moved
Yeah.
here and literally we didn't know anybody. So it took a while to meet people, but also like reestablish a clientele. And I was doing photo shoots out of our house that I quickly outgrew. I think it was like within like a year. And then I went to renting a studio from other photographers with I thought, like, realistically, I was like, "Okay, in 5 years, I'll open up a studio," and it happened a lot sooner than I thought, and
Nice.
yeah, so then the studio was born, and yeah, it was great. It was my home away from home.
Yeah. Wow. So you were there, so 2018.
Yes.
That's when, yeah. Okay. So now take us to 2 weeks after COVID, or one week, not 2 weeks, right? 1 week after COVID.
Yes. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bit of a blur because really, like, I found the lump in my breast, at the beginning of February. It was literally a day after I had been to a visitation for a gym friend who had passed from breast cancer, and she was in her early 30s. And
Oh my
I was
god.
like, yeah, I was like, oh, like I had like an itch. So, like, you scratch it, right? And I was like, wait, that's not right. But I was like, is it in my head? Because of
Mm,
where I had just been. And so my husband
yeah.
felt it and he was like, no, there's something there. So um that was, yeah, the beginning of February. And then really I got the confirmed diagnosis a week, I don't know, something like that, after COVID hit. And well, we all know what happened. The world shut
Yeah.
down, as I say. And then 9 days later, I was in surgery because that was the time when they were saying about, only having to do, like, the life-saving, um, surgeries because of potentially needing the ventilators.
Oh, right.
Yes. Yeah. So,
My
like,
god.
I had no choice, but I could only have a single. I chose a mastectomy, and I could only do a single. I couldn't do a double because the double wasn't necessary.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It's
How
yeah.
scary, and having to, react to that so quickly because of COVID. Like, my god. It doesn't give you a lot of time to process what's actually happening.
No, no, it took
Yeah.
me quite a while to process, and I think I spent, like, 4 days in bed crying, really, and I got the news
Mhm.
over the phone because we couldn't go into our doctor's office. Everything was virtual at that point,
Yeah.
and, like, the kids knew something was going on, but they didn't, like, the little ones knew something was going on, but we didn't wanna tell them because they were really young. Trying to think now, my youngest daughter was in SK.
Mm.
And yeah, and then the boys, oh gosh, were in grades 3 and 4, something like that.
Yeah.
So we told my older children when we knew, and my oldest daughter was living with us, but my oldest son wasn't living with us. When we moved out here, he stayed, with his living with his dad in the East End.
Okay.
So we told them right away, but I didn't wanna tell the little ones until we knew, like, the game plan. Like, this is what's gonna happen,
Mm.
da, 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 da. I didn't, because 'cause they're so young, right? And, like, it's hard
Yeah.
to know what to tell them, but I felt and I went with my gut, which was, like, to be open and honest with them. Like, we weren't sure at that time if I was gonna have to have chemo. We had to wait for the biopsy to come back after surgery. and then I did have to have chemo. So at that point, we said, okay, this is what's happening. Like, mommy had her surgery, and now mommy's gonna have to do chemo. And so my hair's gonna come out. I'm gonna look different, but I wasn't gonna hide that from them.
Mm, yeah.
So I've always been like, let's
Yeah.
have open and honest talks about it. Like, if you have questions, we'll answer them the best that we can. You're going to see mommy crying, like you're going to see, people dropping things off because COVID, nobody could actually come in the house.
Oh my God, that's right. No
Yeah,
visitors.
no visitors. I had to go into a lot of these appointments on my own. Um,
Mm,
yeah, thankfully, my husband was able to be there with me for surgery, which was only day
yeah.
surgery. But I'm glad I was able to just recuperate at home. But my oldest son, he worked in a hospital at that time, so he couldn't even like come to support us because every nobody knew what was going on with COVID, right? And so we had to
Yeah.
keep me protected and keep me safe. Yeah, it was a
Oh,
crazy,
wow.
crazy time.
Yeah, I'm sure you look at that time, Julie, and think like, how did I go into those appointments by myself? You know, you just you really need somebody there to hear, two ears listening and digesting it all. Like,
Mhm.
wow, that must have been so hard.
It was crazy. The doctors were really good though,
Yeah,
because I could have, my husband or my mom on, like, speakerphone, so they would
good.
take notes, and I would go in with questions. I have notebooks. I chuckle
Yeah.
because that's the joke in the house, mommy loves her notebooks. I have so many
Good.
notebooks.
Yeah. Well, they say that's one of the most important things. Like if you're going through something like that is take notes and better
Mhm.
yet, have somebody else there taking notes for you because, the shock in combination with all that information, it's really difficult to manage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
Wow.
don't you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, I
Right.
thankfully, but also not thankfully, had a couple of friends who had gone through cancer treatment. Um, one was, breast cancer, and so she was my rock.
Mm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
she passed not too long ago.
Oh,
Um,
what was her name, Julie?
Melanie.
Melanie. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so she was my rock, and one of the reasons why I've been so open and honest about what I've been going through, because I know how much support she gave me and what it's like to not know and not know what to ask and where to go for information and support. And so this has been therapeutic for me.
Mm.
Wow, Monica, I didn't think I'd cry.
Wow. Aw, but Julie, I think it's incredible what you're doing because you've gone through so much, yet you still have the capacity to want to heal others, and in turn, you're healing yourself. So it's such a beautiful exchange of love and healing, and yeah, you're quite miraculous. I mean, my God. And there's so much more to all of this as well that people might not know. So,
Mhm.
here you are with this, you had this surgery, it's COVID, you're going through all of this, and you're still believing in that business.
Yeah.
And you're still wanting to keep that business going.
Mhm. Yeah.
Most people would have said, bye-bye, I can't handle that, but how, girl? How did you do that?
I don't know, I was just really determined, like, it's
Yeah.
like I said, nothing it's you can't turn it off, you can't put it down, and I was just really determined to keep it going. It was my dream, and it was just
Mhm.
like it had just opened, really. It had only been open for a couple of years, and I know, like, I was fortunate enough that I was eligible for all the COVID supports, and, our landlord was really good as well, um,
Yeah.
so I just somehow did it.
Amazing. Amazing. And 1 year later, after this, diagnosis, you rang the bell, didn't you?
I did, yeah, so
Yeah.
You can ring the so I rang the bell when I finished chemo because I did chemo,
Okay.
um, oh my gosh, from June till October. I did
Okay.
chemo, and then I rang the bell after that, and then I had radiation, and I rang the bell or honked the horn, I can't remember which one I did
Yeah.
after that, but then I had to continue on with immunotherapy,
Okay.
so that went on until August 2021, and then I rang the bell again, and, I had one last surgery, which was the other bilateral mastectomy, they call it,
Okay.
um, and we had a COVID safe party celebrating all that we had gone through in 15 months.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, and you had a big trip planned, didn't you?
Um,
Did you?
so see, this is where I'm always like, what year
Yeah.
was it? What year was it?
Yeah.
So 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as I was getting ready to celebrate being a year of cancer free,
Mhm.
I had been experiencing some weird side effects, and I ended up in the ER, and a scan showed I had a brain tumor. So my cancer had come back and went to my
Mhm.
brain. And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, 9 days later, I was in for brain surgery, which again was crazy. But at least this
Mhm.
time we could have the supports. Um, like our family came
Mhm.
out and our friends and like just everybody rallied around us and helped however much they could. My son came out for a few days and helped. And I chuckle because I
Mhm.
always think of the memory of him feeding me after my brain
Oh.
surgery, and I was moved up to the rehab floor, and he's cutting up my food and helping me eat, and yeah.
Aw. Comes back full circle. You're
Yeah,
like, "He's
I
gonna
know,
help
right?
mama."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's like, "Mom." I'm like, "No, it's okay, Bray, don't worry. I can go to the bathroom on my own."
Wow. And so the brain surgery that they did, like, how did were they able to remove a tumor, or
Yes, yeah, so I
what
had a
happened
tumor
exactly?
here on my right
Okay.
side, and, it was just one. I can't remember, like, how big it was or anything, but, yeah, they went in and it was
Mhm.
a craniotomy, so they removed it, and I have a metal plate and screws. They're titanium, so you know
Okay.
what song always comes to my mind?
What song?
I am titanium. I can't sing to save my
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, so you gotta
so
be careful in the airport now, I guess, too, right?
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering about that, and then
Yeah.
I did go away last spring,
Mhm.
and I remember going through security and all that, and I haven't been on a plane since I was 10. So I remember
Mhm.
going through and I was like, "Can you see that? Like, can you see that?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, listen, I know I'm like a kid, but really it's my first time going through." And I was just
Oh.
wondering if I'd set off alarms.
Oh, wow. God.
Yeah, I had them all up,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So
yeah.
they didn't give you a screen grab of you going through it with your titanium the
I know,
bionic woman.
right? I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the, did you have to undergo treatment because of that brain tumor as well, or how did that work? Did they remove it and then you were okay, or did you have to have chemo again?
No, so they've removed
Was
it,
there
and then I had 5, targeted radiation sessions. So it,
Okay.
like, literally just goes to that area and
Mhm.
preserves, like, the healthy brain tissue and all that stuff. And so, yeah, that was all good, and again, I'm trying to think of the time frame. That was, that finished, I don't know, September of 2022, and then
Mhm.
actually at the end of that month was the first time I talked on stage sharing some of my journey. Um, yeah. And then last spring, so because I'm now classified as stage 4,
Mm.
you have to go for scans every 3 months. So every 3 months, I go for a brain MRI, and then I also go for a CT scan on my chest, abdomen, and pelvis because they keep a close eye on you, as
Okay.
well as a bone scan. So my scans last April showed I had a reoccurrence in my brain. So I had to go for more brain radiation.
Mhm.
And then I also developed necrosis, which are the dead cells that are supposed to clear, but they sometimes don't clear right away. And so they caused me a lot of symptoms last year as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Wow.
And yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, the chemo. So last June, again, I'm like, where are we?
Yeah, I
Right.
know, it's like
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's just it's nuts. So last June, again, so actually I had come home from my trip. I had gone out to Alberta. One of my childhood friends flew me out because she knew my bucket list was to see Moraine Lake and Lake Louise.
Great. Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. So
Nice.
I got to go and spend a week there and check some more things off my bucket list and had to come home to a whole bunch of tests. And it showed something concerning in my liver.
Mhm.
So I had to go for an MRI, and it showed that I had 2 lesions in my liver. And that same week, uh, it was crazy. It was like a week and a half of hit after hit after hit.
Okay.
Um, I found out about that, and then I also found out I was gonna have to go back into chemo. And then we also found out that we also had to move. And we had been
Mhm.
living in a rental, and we'd been there for 10 years. And they'd been, like, really good landlords and everything. But we knew that with me not working, my husband's also on long-term disability, and so we were like, and the current market is insane,
Yes.
literally insane. So it was just like we took hit after hit after hit in a week and a half, and I also that time decided I had to close the studio. So that was really hard, but I knew, like, I had to, alleviate as much stress as possible. And, when it comes to financial stress, like, that's just one more thing to have to worry about carrying the studio.
Yeah.
So I knew it was the best decision. I had been subletting it and I had also been renting it out for people to run workshops and stuff, but it wasn't enough.
Mhm.
So, and I had actually just re signed a 5-year lease, but they were really good about letting me get out of it given the circumstances.
Good.
So, yeah. So that was
Wow.
June. And yeah, it was nuts within,
Amazing.
yeah.
So so for people who have never met you before, your social media is incredible because you're so open with everything. And when you were, literally being thrown all these punches and then being told that you got to get out of your house, you put a video on social media and that video went viral, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. I
Yeah.
did a live video while I was in chemo. I
Mhm.
was at the hospital and just, like, asking for help because I knew, well, I had a feeling like it would be someone who knows someone, that knows that we're good people just in really crappy circumstances,
Yeah.
um, that would be able to help us out. And because we had been looking, but everyone wants, like, AAA tenants and perfect credit and this and that, and with all the things that we've gone through, our credit has taken a beating. I don't have an income. As crazy
Yeah.
as this is, I don't even qualify for disability. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that one.
Yes, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and what I've been told is because my husband's on long-term disability, they deduct dollar for dollar. And so because, for a family of 5, they allow however much the amount is, and he makes more than that, but it doesn't even cover our rent. And I'm just like,
Wow.
how does it, like, it doesn't make sense at all.
No.
I Yeah. So
Did you are you challenging that, or have you challenged it, or
yeah, I've been told the same thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And like we've put our, we're on the wait list for subsidized housing, but we know, well, most people know it's like, 5, 10 year wait list. Like there's not enough
yeah.
housing and we don't want to move out of Milton. That was
Mhm.
the big thing, was staying in Milton, not just for my supports, but for the kids too, because our kids have been through
Yeah,
so much more than many kids would or should have to go through in the 4 years.
yeah.
So, we in December, I found out my those scans. Okay, so let me backtrack.
Mhm.
Um, so I started chemo last July, and yeah, it was brutal, and then there was all the stress on top of that of having to find a place to live, and I ended up having a seizure because the stress just got to be too much of, like, worrying, "Where are we gonna live?" and all that stuff, so I was hospitalized and got through that, and my scans just before that time, again, I'm losing track of the time, but,
Mhm.
um, the scans, I think it was September, showed that the liver lesions had shrunk in half and my brain was still clear. And then in December, um, those scans showed that my liver lesions were gone. My brain, they'll never say like remission, because when you're stage 4, it's never you're in remission. What they
Right.
refer to it as no evidence of active disease. And yeah, yeah, like I said, if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Um, and people still think like they'll ask like, "Why are you still in chemo?" I'm like, "Well, that's again, everyone's different, but when you're stage 4, typically you're in some sort of treatment still."
Mhm.
So, yeah, even though
Interesting.
yes, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
clear, but I'll still be in chemo every 3 weeks. So
Okay.
so yeah, December, we had 2 great Christmas presents, actually 3.
Yeah.
My scans were clear, I'm stable, and we had a private benefactor step up and offer to help us bridge the gap of the current rental market value, if I'm saying this right. So
Yeah.
someone's been helping us with part of the rent, and then a family of a good friend of mine helped put a roof over our heads.
Wow.
So,
Oh, great. So you're still in Milton?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so happy for you, Julie. My God.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so now I mean, you're doing, I know you're doing it before, but you're getting up on stages, you're telling your story. And not only are you doing that, but you're also showing people online, like, all of this strength that you have. Like, I was just watching your video of you with your trainer, like pumping weights, and you know, it it's just amazing. And like in all of this and all of the things that you've gone through, what have some of the biggest lessons sort of been for you in terms of living life? Like, do you see life differently now? I mean, obviously you would after having gone through what you've been through, but when you wake up in the morning, like, how are you seeing life these days?
Well, yeah, you definitely look at things differently, 100%.
Yeah.
And I know, like, there were things that I would, like, scoff at, like, for example,
Hmm.
meditating, because 'cause I'm so used to being, like, on the go, right? Like, my
Hmm.
outlet has always been being active, and my whole adult life, I've been active. So, but for me to, like, try to sit still and calm my mind, I was like, "Psh, yeah, no, that's not for me."
Hmm.
And I've embraced it, and I do it regularly, as well as journaling, and just the place that I was in the fall was, it was bad, and I didn't realize it, because you don't realize it in the moment. You're like, "Yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can't get out of bed, but I'm okay."
Hmm.
And when I look back and I'm like, "Okay, yes, a part of it was the chemo, but a big part of it was the stress I was under, my mental health, and just all the things that had piled on, and I just couldn't catch my breath. So, I'm a lot more cautious with where my energy goes and who I let into my circle, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, I chuckle because some of my family will be like, "You know so many people." And I'm like, "Okay, I may know a lot of people, but not everyone's in that inner circle."
Mhm.
So, you have the inner
Yeah.
circle and the circle, and it, goes a little bit bigger for different things. Like I have, you know, business owner friends, acquaintances, um, people I work out with that I'm acquainted with and
Mhm.
are also really good friends with. So I may know a lot of people, but so I'm
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'm more cautious where my energy goes, and I protect my energy, and I'm putting myself first. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And I'm
Good
not
for you.
apologizing for it either.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is so important. The it's funny, like sometimes they say, when you're well into your 50s, that's when all of a sudden you realize, oh yeah, that's what I should have been doing. But this is putting yourself first. And yeah, the meditating I've just recently started doing that too after being told for years, it's can really help. And it brings flow to everything, doesn't it?
Mhm. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can really impose a lot of stress upon ourselves, and I think too, when you have a big heart and you're caring and everything you've described, like wanting to be there for your children, and then having a daycare center, and even the photography, like you are in the business of making other people feel special and loved and important. And that takes a lot of energy. And sometimes, you can get left behind in that because you're giving so much to everybody else.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what they say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and you're setting a great example for your kids too, to see their mom taking care of herself. And yeah,
yeah, and
good.
just like, yeah, let it, like, sharing with them, because I know, like, growing up, we weren't always, taught, like, this is beneficial or good or not so good, like, when it comes to food or
Mhm.
being active and all those things. And, yeah, the video that you referenced about working out and stuff, like, being active has it, like, I don't do it to, like, look good. I do it because it helps build up my strength and with the
Mhm.
mind as well, and set the example too for the kids. But when I was first diagnosed, I was able to still walk pretty much like, I'd come home from chemo and I'd walk. Like, I had walking buddies. We would walk, or the kids would walk with me, or, whoever. And
Mhm.
so I still stayed active, but in the fall when I was in bed for literally months, um, I was like, I can't do it. Like, I don't like it. I don't like how it makes me
Mhm.
feel. And I started with just doing like 5-minute walks. Actually, the joke at one point was, "Who wants to walk mom today?"
Aw,
So,
walk around the block.
it wasn't even that. I could only go up and down the street. Um,
Wow.
but I would always say to the boys, "Well, at least, you don't have to scoop and poop
Yeah,
or poop and scoop." So, you're just walking me.
that's
It's all
right.
good.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, so I like,
God.
just I know it's easier said than done for sure when you're going through chemo, and I know I've met a lot of women online who are like, I don't have the energy, I can't do it." And
Mhm.
actually, I think I commented in a group yesterday about, even if you just do a 5-minute walk up and down the street and slowly build up. I was doing chair yoga for seniors a few months ago, but that's okay because I was still
Yeah.
moving my body and walking outside. And yeah, slowly now I'm back to the gym twice a week.
Mhm.
Um, and instead of being like, "Oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. I'm thanking my body, like, thank you for letting me work out for 30 minutes, or thank you for letting me go out for a few hours with my friends to lift up my spirits. And, thank you for building strength and letting me do the things that I love to do.
Mhm.
So the
Yeah.
mindset, yeah.
Yes, the mindset. You're in that gratitude mode, and
Mhm.
we all, anybody who follows you, I think we all see that in you, and it's inspiring, and it reminds us to, live our lives that way as well. Yeah. So Julie, you're enjoying like being on stage and telling your story and doing these types of podcasts.
I am.
Is you find it that's great. I'm so happy because it's really, I think that's like sort of one of the exciting things that I've seen after COVID is how people are having conversations where they're just opening it all up. Everything is kind of revealed and shown, and questions are being answered. Whereas before, I don't know, like in some cases with certain things, we didn't know as much. I mean, even the way you're describing what it means to be in stage 4 cancer, I had no idea that you would still be considered stage 4, you know, and have to receive chemo even though those scans are coming back not showing anything that's active. Like,
Mhm.
it's so specific to what you're going through, and somebody else who's watching could be going through the same thing, and nobody's talking about it. So such a good thing that you're doing. Where do you sort of see yourself with this, um sort of coming out in the open and talking more and more about your story? Where do you see the future of that?
That's a good question. Uh, I do want to start a podcast. Um, that is on my to-do list, but my brain isn't always, because I still have, like, a lot of brain fog. I'll mix up words, like, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard for me to learn new things.
Okay.
I'm working my way to that. Actually, my friend Mel, who I mentioned, we had joked around about starting a podcast. So, I really want
Yeah.
to. Um,
Mhm.
it's on my to-do list
Yeah.
for sure. And yeah,
Good for
just
you.
like sharing what I've been learning, whether it's, supports or different groups that people can find, like supportive groups online, what I've learned financially,
Yeah.
like those supports that you can also get. Um, just sharing with others that may be in the same boat
Mhm.
or similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Julia, historically, you have proven that a little bit of brain fog isn't going to stop you. So you've done a lot of things, and I find that inspiring too. Even if I watched you and you had a bit of brain fog or whatever was happening on the podcast, I'd still be rooting for you that you're doing it.
Thank
And yeah, I think it's
you.
great. Like I said, I think the world needs your voice, and yeah, and
Thank
if you have podcast questions, you can always call me.
thank you.
I can help you too. Yeah.
It's good to know because I'm like, kinda don't know where to start, but
Yeah.
one step at a
Yeah.
time, so
Oh, for
it's
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
good,
You'd
but
be
yeah,
great
no,
at it.
we'll see. I don't know what, like, I still, like I said, I can't put down my camera, but I don't want the stress of running the business, so, like, I'll still be
Mhm.
doing a little bit of photography here and there with family and friends,
Yeah.
past clients, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, um,
Yeah. Good.
and, yeah, and then to backtrack a little bit more, in 2021, I think it was November, December, I also did something. So, as a teenager, I wanted to model. or act.
Okay.
And but I never had the confidence because I had crooked teeth and all these things. So I never did it. And then in my early 30s, um, yeah, because I had the four kids were all young. I applied to a modeling agency and they wanted to sign me, but it was just too busy in my life at that time. And I just happened to meet Carolyn from Carolyn's Talent at a conference. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what year it was now. I don't know, say like 2017, 2018, something along those lines.
Mhm.
And long story short, I guess we still have
Mhm.
time, right?
Of course we do.
Okay, all
This
right.
is great.
I emailed her. I had done a photo shoot with a photographer friend of mine, Tanya Smith, and I
I know
luckily,
Tanya.
you know Tanya,
I know her, she's
small
great. Yeah.
world. Oh my
Yeah, yeah.
gosh, we go way back. Um,
Aw.
yeah, so I had done a photo shoot, and she was like, "You need to be in front of the camera more," and I was like, "Okay." So I reached out to Carolyn, and I was like, "I don't know if you remember me. We met at this conference and, blah, 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 blah. And this is what I've gone through the last year and a half or whatever it was. And I wanted to reach out to see if this is what I want to do. And would you be willing to sign me with your agency?" And I sent her a couple of pictures that I had from the shoot. And in like 5 minutes, she emailed me back saying yes. So
Hmm. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so that was 2021. And then in 2022, at the beginning of the year, um, because of with COVID too, when you would audition for commercials or like whatever, you would be cast as what they call hero or like the main or the lead or whatever. And then they'd also have backup people just in case of COVID.
Okay.
Okay. So I think both me and my youngest daughter were put on like a hold for backup for something in March. But they didn't need us. And then in May of 2022, I shot my first commercial with my youngest daughter.
Ah,
Yeah. So it was really neat. It was a Lenovo commercial, and I was portraying a cancer patient,
okay.
ironically enough.
Mm, yeah,
But they wanted someone that had gone through cancer treatment, right? So
okay.
yeah, and then I think it was November 2022, I shot another commercial, again portraying a cancer patient, and then I basically had to take all of last year off,
Mm,
and I've just recently well, in the last couple of months, I asked my agent to put me back in, so to speak, and, I did a I'm waiting to hear back from an audition. Let's just put it that way. So,
good.
we'll see. So I don't know where things are gonna take me, but you don't know if you don't put yourself out there, right?
That's right. Exactly, and good for you, all these dreams you've had and things you're thinking about, you know?
Thank
That's
you.
g I think it's wonderful that you're going out there and you're just, testing the waters. How can I bring this into my life?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of healing in that too. That's another really good example of, putting yourself and your needs first and not kind of brushing off dreams like, "I don't have time for that." That
Mhm.
you're making the time for it.
I don't have time for cancer, if that's what I don't have time for.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. Do you think you'd ever write a book, Julie?
Oh,
Have you ever thought
that's
about that?
funny that you asked me that because my sister and I joke around saying, "We should really write a book. We should really write a book."
Yeah, I think you
So,
really should.
yeah. Yeah, I've thought
Yeah.
about it, but again, like, it's one of those, it's on the
Mhm.
shelf, so to speak, and
Yeah,
I'll come back to it, and who knows?
that's great. It's funny, Julie, on this podcast, I guess because it's called Get to Know Them, it kinda comes up a lot at the end. I'll often ask people, "Have you thought about writing a book?" Because, the stories are so interesting, and, um, I had a gentleman on I don't know if you remember a band called The Spoons from the '80s? They were like a new wave band. Anyway, the lead singer was on and he had written a book about his life, and he said, every single person on earth should write a book, even if it never goes to be published, because he said as you write your life story, you see so many things where when you were a kid something happened and maybe you brushed it off as it didn't really mean anything, and then it comes back full circle. Like you see all these patterns and it's really fascinating. And some of those things only come up when you're actually in that act of writing, right? Well, you probably
Mhm.
find that in your journaling. You sit down, you think you're going to write one thing, and all of a sudden you're off onto something else. But it's so amazing how things connect. And you know
Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, I talked
yeah,
about it in my interview with Jeff Sammet from SiriusXM a couple of weeks ago, and I said about when I think back to a lot of things, like even to like when my parents split up when I was little, and we moved to Bowmanville with my stepdad, or moved in with my stepdad, and then he died when I was 12, and we ended up moving to Ajax a couple of years after that. And in when I went to high school, well, I moved there in grade 10. And in high school is where I met my ex-husband, who I have my 2 oldest kids with. And
okay,
then we split up in, I don't know, early 2000s. I'm trying to think now because again, it's been so long.
yeah,
Um, and during the time though when we were married and I was playing soccer, I met I was I'm trying to think, late 20s, I guess, mid 20s.
hmm,
I don't know, however old I was. Anyways, and this younger girl came onto the team, and our paths were meant to cross because I'll get to that in a minute. But so I split with my ex husband, and then um, I met my now husband because of my friend from soccer.
wow,
Yes. And we started our family. And because of his job changing, we moved out to the West End. And the words, "I'll never, ever live in the West End," came out of my mouth about, I don't know, 16 years ago when my sister lived out here.
uh-huh,
And sure enough, a few years later, we are living in Milton. And when I had started up the photography business and I was trying to like um, figure out things, and that was when a lot of like the online networking things were starting,
yeah,
right? And so I joined an online networking group, and I just happened to move to her hometown,
wow.
who I have become really good friends with, and I've done work for and met people through her. And it's her family's house that we live in.
Oh my God, holy goosebumps.
Yeah, I
Wow,
know. Like it's crazy. I mean, no
that
one,
is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Nobody ever
God,
wants to like, obviously go through a cancer diagnosis, but like all of these things had to happen. And being here in Milton, like the community here is phenomenal. I can't even,
oh,
I can't even with the support and love that we've received from them. But all the things had to happen. And this was the journey and the path I was meant to go down.
yeah,
And if it's brought me here to like talking to you and talking to other people and
yeah.
sharing my journey, and I've had a lot of women reach out to me online thanking me because it's helped them or it's helped a loved one. And something else I'll share with you is when I was in the cancer clinic last week, I ended up running into a past photography client who's now a nurse there, and they're one of my like old OG families from when I first moved here to Milton. And she said, "Thank you because I know so and so who was diagnosed with whatever kind of cancer." And I told her about your journey, and what you've shared online has helped her.
Wow.
So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thinking of how I found out about you was I was visiting Donna from She's Got Legs,
Oh,
and we were brainstorming on some jewelry for her. And I said, I need to find a family for my Three Little Wishes campaign. Like, do you know of anybody? And she goes, yes, I do. She said, you don't know Julie Rock? And I'm like, should I? She said, yeah, she's like an amazing photographer, but you've never met her in any of your networking things? I'm like, no, how is this possible? And then it was only like, I think there were a few days in between. I hadn't reached out to you yet. And Barb Days from Body Med Boutique, she's also been on my talk show. She told me about you, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I need to reach out to Julie. And that so it was like I had never heard of you, and then all of a sudden two women are, bringing up your name within the span of a week.
that's crazy.
So it is. It's so
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. It's so I don't know what happened, Julie, since COVID, but I feel like I have met some freaking amazing women, and there's just like you were saying, like there's the inside circle, but then there's also they're like these angels. Like you just feel like, oh my God, like people are actually looking out for me. Like they care about my business, they care about what I'm doing, they want to bring people into it.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just we're so lucky, like in that regard. When you're describing how you feel about Milton, I feel that way about Burlington. I'm never in a million years. And I used to say, I had a classic line too. There is no way in hell I will ever live north of the QEW, because I grew up in Oakville by the lake, right? And I mean that at that time, that it wasn't the highfalutin Oakville it is today. But it's just, yeah, and anyway, here we are. Yeah, and I'm just so happy that I connected with you and all of this as well. Like it's wild.
It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, you just don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you do not know. Nope. That's for sure. Oh, Julie, I've loved chatting with you. You've like, thank you for being so open with your story and sharing so much. And as you continue to do it, it's just, it's going to help more and more people. You give so much to everyone. And if there's anything, like somebody who's watching, if there's something that they could do for you, is there anything you're kind of like, man, I could use some help with this? Or is there anything right now?
Oh, that's a hard one. If only I could share the link. I'm still in the
Yeah.
running for that Supermom contest. Um, but can't share the links online anymore.
Oh yeah, what's the Supermom contest?
Yeah, so
What's that?
it's I don't even know how I came across it, but again, I was like, I'm just going to enter this and see what happens
Yeah.
because you can win um a weekend trip to Palm Springs, California, a photo shoot and be featured in a two-page spread, I think, in Woman's World magazine, I
Okay.
think, and $20,000.
Oh, that would help.
Yeah, all those things
Yeah.
would be great because I've always wanted to go to California
Yeah.
and to be in a magazine. Hey, why not? And
Yeah.
well, yeah, the money would help. So I've made it through to, I think right now, tomorrow is the next cut for the top 5.
Okay.
So, and then I think there's probably 1 or 2 more cuts from there still, because 'cause I'm in the top 10 right now for this category that I'm in, and then, yeah, I don't know exactly know how it all goes,
Yeah.
but, um, if anyone's watching that has my phone number, you can text me and I can text you the link, or you can
Yeah.
email me at julierockphotos@gmail.com. And I have a vacation responder set up because I'm not really working right now, but it will um, go back to you with the link that you can go on to because it's all
Good.
about voting really, and there is the option to donate, and it is going to the Children's Miracle Network. if I'm saying that right.
Okay.
So, like, if you choose to donate, it goes to a good cause. And the
Good.
contest is open, like it's the US and Canada. Like it's not just Canada.
Wow.
So I'm like, hey, why
Yeah.
not? And yeah,
Yeah.
if there's anyone out there that would like me to share my story on stage or whatever, I would love to do more of that too.
Good. Oh, that's great. You're awesome, girl.
Ah, thanks, Monica.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been great. So I'm going to slide you into the virtual green room, and then I'll be right back to you. But thank you
Okay.
so much for everything. Really appreciate today.
Well, thank you for having me and letting me
Yes.
share more.
Yeah, good. Anytime. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Julie Rock, what an inspiration. My goodness. She's got the right mindset, and she's a warrior. That is for sure. So we'll see you back here next week for another episode of Get to Know Them. Don't forget to check out our sponsors. I'll see you Thursday at Scooters. At actually this Thursday, darn, I'm not going to be there. I think I'll be there Sunday night, but go for a lesson on Thursday. It'll do the body good. Check out my website, glamjewels.com, glamjulz.com, flourishandbask.ca, and also brendabadome.com. All right, guys, we'll see you next week and keep on showing the world your sparkle. Thanks for tuning in.